This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show. I'm Nancy Stevens, and today we're diving into the world of books, writing and creativity with a very special guest. Joining me is Flora Rees, a publishing consultant who specialises in developmental editing and literary festival management. She works with authors including Sunday Times bestsellers Victoria Heslop and Alison Weir, and is also the project manager for the Milton Keynes Literary Festival. We'll be chatting about what's happening behind the scenes since the last festival, what exciting projects are underway, and what we can look forward to this April. So if you love books, writing, or just a great cultural event, stay tuned. We've got so much to talk about. And it's a year since you were in the studio, Flora. I cannot believe it. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me back.
It's like, can you believe it's a year?
Well, I sort of can, because we've done so much with MK Lit Fest in the last year since I saw you, but no, it doesn't feel like a year since I was sitting here talking about 2025.
That's so much has happened though, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Because I mean, we think what's happening in the world right now is crazy. We were talking off air about that. It's just blown our, everyone's tiny little minds. But I mean, on a personal level, you've been really, really busy. But MK Lit Fest, I guess, needs to be planned a year in advance. So once you finish 2025,
Yes,
yeah.
So we have the April Festival, which went
Yes.
really well in 2025, and we're so looking forward to the next one, which is coming up from the 22nd to 26th of April, so not long now. That's been taking place in central Milton Keynes and in Kiln Farm. But in between our Lit Fests, we do a huge amount of other work with writers, with books, with words, with children, and we've had a really exciting year. So it's been very, very busy, but really satisfying and rewarding.
I mean, I love I love the fact that it's something that community can get involved with, and that's really, really important, because everyone, a lot of people are very derisory about Milton Keynes still, and it bores me, But people say, oh, there's no community. But if you find your community, there is, and and the world of books, there's no better community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what we've done with the festival is taken it from a sort of one-off weekend to a year-round series of activities and projects that engage the community as much as we can. So as well as the general festival that we have in April, which is really exciting, we've got 18 sessions of all sorts of different things, different conversations, authors, so on, coming up. We run projects for supporting writers, creative writing. We did a Schools Lit Fest. We've done projects, workshops in schools. We've run a whole new community project called Raising Voices that I'd love to talk about a bit later on. And we also ran the second MK Indie Book Fair, which was enormous fun. Which is where we invite self-published and independent writers and publishers to bring their books into a huge fair to sell their books, to promote their work, to meet readers, and meet each other. And we had 70 writers and publishers featured at this event, and it was just fantastic to see people turning out for books.
That's such a great idea, because it's quite being a writer, that the common theme is it's a very isolating process. And I think for writers to come together, to meet other writers, saying, we're not alone in this process. It's a very solitary process. But as you say, that sense of community, and also getting published, as we've talked about this before. I've talked about this with other authors as well. Is getting published is not the easiest thing, and going down the indie route sometimes is the only way for some people, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And the self-publishing route has really just become such a genuinely workable way of going about getting published now. It's very much changed over the last 20 years, from what we used to call vanity publishing to really authentic self-publishing. And what we found at the Indie Book Fair was how many people have come with enthusiasm to get their books out into the world that way, and that's what's working for them. And the thing with self-publishing is it's probably you have to do as much marketing as you do writing. So if that's your thing, then that works very well for you. And you can find all sorts of different ways to get the support and expertise that you need to get your book as good as it can be before it goes out there. But people are finding it a really satisfying way of writing and publishing. And one of the feedback we did have from the Indie Book Fair was how great it was to meet other self-published writers. So you're absolutely right in that. And we had indie publishers there as well, who were publishing a small list, but really exciting list, and lots of different genres, from crime to memoir and self-help, and there were some really interesting books on neurodivergence, and on children's books, and across lots of different kind of categories.
It never ceases to amaze me how many different genres there are. If someone's thought of it, they've written about it. And I think it's wonderful. And as you say, self-publishing has come such a long way in the last 20 years, because, as you say, it was deemed as a vanity project, or sometimes people who weren't very good were just publishing their books, and then that was awkward. But now it seems people, really credible writers are doing this, because it's, if you want to get published, do it yourself. And sometimes they say, if you want something doing, do it yourself.
Absolutely. And what's really happening is very interesting. I've just come back from London Book Fair, which was last week, and still publishers are looking at self-published writers that are successful. So, you can see that in the charts things bubbling about what's doing well, what people reviewing well, what's actually being read and bought. And that is a really interesting intersection between the two worlds, because quite often a very successful, Colin Hoover is as an example, Andy Weir way back when, whose new movie's just come out, the Project Hail Mary, but his original book was published online first. And publishers are looking out to see who is doing well and where they might be able to come in and do a deal with that author, take them into a traditional publishing framework, but then books become even bigger because you've got sort of both aspects working for you, and that's fascinating. So that's kind of, for some writers, that's kind of the big hit ambition, is that they become successful enough that they'll then get that additional platform.
Gosh, I did not know that, but that makes perfect sense, because as you say, it gives them that platform, and therefore they will be noticed. And the dream is to get a publishing deal for every writer, isn't it, really, ultimately?
For many of them, but to be honest, it's interesting. Some people want to publish for different reasons, and so that is why self-publishing is such a great opportunity, because it means you can go down the different route by yourself. And we've had writers that are publishing the Indie Book Fair, ranging from age 15 to kind of in their 70s. So that is what's fantastic, is it's a really, really wide-ranging opportunity for people.
Incredible.
And we will be bringing that back in September.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so we'll get you back to talk about that, because I think it's really, really important to promote anything that's independent, because I think that takes, it's bravery. It's bravery and gutsy.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that, as the Lit Fest, we really want to be doing, to encouraging people to write, to develop their skill and their craft. So that's where our workshops come in. So alongside a kind of developmental project that we do over 8 months with a group of writers, sort of bringing them through with feedback, we do a number of different workshops. We've got 4 coming up at the festival, actually. So for writers who are trying to get to that next stage, we have got a workshop on how to demystify dialogue, so how to make your really work on dialogue, which can be quite tricky. People have a natural flair for it, or they don't. And so if you're a writer struggling with a dialogue, the workshop like this with Toby Lit, that's going to be on the Saturday morning in the library, will be amazing. We've got a workshop on mining your memories. So if you want to write poetry or stories sort of based on life and experience, Simon Madrell will be coming to help you work out how to pull those out and frame them into really great prose or poetry. We've got a workshop on writing your synopsis. So if you are trying to get published, that's one of those really difficult things. How do you bring your big novel, your 120,000 word novel, into 150 words and make it really grabby and exciting? And so Aki Shields is coming to work on that and make that happen for you. We'll talk. It's a huge, a massive program. We talk about that because it's an incredible lineup. I'm very, very excited. And coming up, we're also going to be talking about the Raising Voices project as well, which sounds particularly special, creating a story map and giving people a chance to share their own stories. It feels like such a powerful way to bring voices together across Milton Keynes. Tell us a little bit more about that, Flora. We're so excited about this project. So we launched it last year in 2025, and the aim of the project is we are creating a story map, which you can already see it's been launched online. And if you imagine a map where it's got lots of different pins in it, and if you click on any one of those pins, it will open up, it will show you a piece of poetry or a story. You can see a picture related to it, and you can also listen to the audio of the writer reading it aloud for you. And so we're collecting flash fiction, so that's up to 500 words, creative non-fiction, which is more of a kind of auto-fiction memory-based pieces, and poetry of up to 40 lines. But the key thing they all have in common, the only thing they have to have in common, is that you can physically locate them to somewhere in Milton Keynes. So that doesn't have to be about Milton Keynes. We have a wonderful piece, for example, set in the future when the waves are broken, the icebergs are melted, we're pretty much underwater, but the beacon still stands on the top of the hill above the water, and something staring in the depths. So that's a wonderful little story that's connected, happens to be placed there. We've got poetry based around the city. We've got places from the railway station into Teardrop Lakes, into Great Linford Manor Park. Pieces connected to city events. We've got a wonderful poetry based on Pride. We have More than 70 pieces already up there. So it's if you go to Milton Keynes to mklitfest.org and look for the Raising Voices page, you can find this story map. But we are inviting more submissions. It's a rolling submission. Anybody can send in their piece, and we will read them and we will take on the ones that are going to really work for our story map. And the aim is heading towards the 60th anniversary of Milton Keynes, which is next year. We want to have this story map covering as much of the Milton Keynes area as we can. And we've had wonderful engagement. So we were brilliant. We had support from the Community Foundation and from the City Council to get the project started. We've been into schools with workshops to encourage them to learn how to write about place in both poetry and prose. And we have also done workshops in the city centre and online to kind of draw people in and get them thinking about the type of pieces that we're hoping to receive. We've been absolutely thrilled with what we've had. We're actually going to have, we had a celebration in December to launch the map, and we had 10 of the writers coming and reading their pieces. Well, 9 in person, and one of them was played from the map itself to prove that the technology works, which it does. And we're going to be doing that again at the festival itself. So anyone who puts a poem or a piece in before the end of this month, we'll be selecting from those new pieces to invite those writers to come and read as part of the festival on the Sunday night, the 26th of April.
What a great idea, though. I mean, who would have thunk it that you'd do something like that? But that makes perfect sense and really puts Milton Keynes on the map as well.
I think so. It shows the real rich quality of the writing that we've got here. And we've been playing with it in other ways. So we've done literary walks. In fact, we had one that came right through where we are now because we've had pieces set around the city centre. So we've taken a group of people, our audience plus our writers, and we've stopped at key points and had a story or a poem read to you about that particular place.
Oh, I love that.
And those are all geolocating, and we'll be releasing stories, we're going to call them sound walks, on an app where you can follow that route yourself, and you can, it'll be geolocated. So if you have the app open, as you get to the place the story's set, it'll start reading it to you.
Oh,
So
I love that.
We'll do that at City Centre. We're going to do that around the railway station. We've got one in Great Linford Manor Park already, and we're going to be rolling that out around the city as the stories come in. We're going to see how they group. It's a really dynamic project that we can just keep on bringing together and developing.
I live in Great Linford, so I've got no excuse not to go. But again, it's just really interesting, as you say, really puts Milton Keynes on the map. But I think what literally, yes. But what struck me is that you said, our anniversary is next year, 60 years. It feels like 50.
Yeah.
But then, because I'm as old as Milton Keynes, so well, Milton Keynes is I turned 60 this year. So, but our big birthdays have been concurrent with each other, and I just it feels like 5 minutes ago that we were celebrating being 50, and I definitely was not celebrating being 50. Although I feel very differently about turning 60. It's so weird that a decade can make such a difference. I feel so much more positive in my 60th year than I did in my 50th. That's so weird.
And well, with Milton Keynes, similarly, it's just been longlisted for City of Culture.
I know.
You've seen that, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
As the Lit Fest, obviously, we feel part of the cultural fabric of the city, so we're very, very excited at supporting that as much as we can.
I saw that we've been longlisted, and I mean, of course, you've got...
There's a lot of competition.
Yes, there is a lot of competition, but I don't see, there's no reason why we wouldn't end up being shortlisted. Yeah. We've got so much to offer, and worst case scenario is, again, it puts us out there in a different light.
The fact that we've been longlisted is proof that we've got some really exciting stuff happening here in the city across all the arts, and that's not just literature. That's, we've had the theatre, we have so much artistic expertise and stuff going on here. I don't know if you've seen the Shallow Gallery over on the far side of the Centre MK, but there's a new artwork display there all the way along. It's by Next. It's the outer edge where there's the glass sort of behind the glass. All the way along is art exhibitions, and they're going to be rolling art exhibitions every 6 to 8 weeks. They will change, showcasing local artists. They're absolutely fantastic.
I shall have a look at that.
Go down, have
yes.
a look. If you wander on the outside on Silbury Boulevard, you can see the Shallow Gallery. And it's wonderful.
I shall have a look. So what's coming up in April? We're going to look ahead a little bit because April scarily not that far away, actually. What can we expect from this year's festival? I know we've got, I personally see Johnny Ball, Inside Criminal Minds with Ruth Mancini and Professor David Wilson, who was a guest on my show last year. Again, one of the most phenomenal guests I've ever met. Fascinating man. And that in itself would be incredible. And the one I'm really looking forward to is Harriet Tice in conversation with Sarah Pinborough, who's also been a guest on my show. When I look back, I think I'm very lucky. I get to talk to these incredible people who actually live locally and are super talented. So how do you get all these incredible people together?
It's a matter of asking them. So when we start to plan the festival, we are quite a small festival. So we have, we know we've got certain things. We really want to have something in crime. We want to have some interesting political and historical events. We want to make sure we've got some really strong children's events, workshops, as I've already mentioned, and then other things that we know our audiences are interested in. So we look at who's got a book coming out. That's always a really useful one to go. Something new's happening. That's exciting to talk about. Who do we personally love and think would be wonderful to come to the festival? And what have we heard on the ground that's buzzing around and popping up? So, for example, we've got a really fantastic our session on kind of on young writers. We have Derek Owusu and Madeline Dunnigan. And Derek Owusu is a writer I've been following for a while. I featured him at a festival a couple of years ago elsewhere, and he's a Granta young British novelist. And he's also just been shortlisted for the Dylan Thomas Prize with his new book, Borderline Fiction. So I wanted to feature him. And then Madeline Dunnigan came out with a new book that was hugely well reviewed. And like Derek's book, Borderline Fiction, talks about coming of age and the difficulties of young men and challenges that they have. We thought that would be a wonderful session to have together. So we invited them both. They both said yes. Brilliant. So
and that's a very topical thing as well because of manosphere as well. So
So I think that's going to be a really, really interesting conversation that Saturday afternoon. On the 25th of April. Then there are things that pop up like Harriet Tice and Witchcraft.
Can't wait.
And we'd all watched The Traitors. We thought it was enormous fun. And the book was coming out, and we had been spoken to Harriet's people previously about doing an event, and it hadn't come off. So we thought, well, this is a great opportunity, so we invited her. And again, she said yes, and having her with Sarah Pinborough is going to be just explosive. It's going to be a wonderful conversation. That's on the Saturday night. That's our criminally entertaining crime night.
Yes, and I need to get tickets for that ASAP because I think
that
you said that.
Really
yes,
well.
And I think what a great combination because Sarah Pinborough is. So one of the best guests I've ever had. I mean, like you, so entertaining, so well read, so articulate, and she, in conversation with her would just be a joy anyway. And Harriet, as you say, was, she's riding the zeitgeist of The Traitors, which we all were obsessed with last year. I cannot wait for this year.
It's going to be terrific. And then with crime, like you mentioned, Ruth Mancini and David Wilson. Now that's really going to be an interesting one because Ruth. Or rather, like Harriet was a criminal barrister. Ruth's a criminal defence solicitor and still is. And obviously, Prof. David Wilson is one of the leading criminologists. So their conversation will be fascinating. True crime, gripping fiction, how you get that onto the page, but also going inside the criminal mind and what makes people do what they do. So that's going to be brilliant. That's in the library on the Saturday afternoon.
And Johnny Ball, what a legend!
Can I just say, we are so excited about Johnny Ball. And I think it's kind of hilarious because you and me, we know Johnny Ball. Yeah. We love Johnny Ball. And he's got a new memoir coming out, Stories That Must Be Told, and we just thought that's going to be brilliant because he's enormously entertaining. He's really
so likeable though, isn't he?
But then go down 2 generations and people haven't. So it's really interesting. I think we're going to get a great turnout for Johnny Ball, and I'm really excited about that. So he's kind of kicking off the festival on the Wednesday night, the 22nd of April. That's going to be in Waterstones, and he's going to be fantastic.
As you said, and I think what you do so well every year is that there's something for everybody, literally, and I mean that's a big job for you as PM to do, isn't it?
Yes, I mean the aim is to try and really make sure, because Milton Keynes is such a diverse community, and we really want to have an opportunity for everybody to find something that they're going to enjoy. And the key thing we say is you don't have to have read the book. You don't have to know anything about the book. What you're coming to hear about is the author talk about their topic and insights into how they write and what they think and what they believe in. And that's where it gets so interesting, because a Litfest event is never the same twice.
And I also think it's you don't have to read the book, but you will want to at the end. And I think that's the key, is making people fall in love with reading.
And we very much hope that people will buy the book and then they can go and get it signed and have a chat to the author afterwards. And that's always really, really fun. And particularly for children. So we've got a wonderful children's lineup this year. We have Matty Long with Draw Along with Croaky. So Matty Long, who also did Super Happy Magic Forest books, his new series is about a frog called Croaky who goes on all sorts of different adventures. And Matty's going to do a sort of drawing workshop with 5+ or thereabouts, so the kids can draw along, create their own characters and think about how you make a story. So they'll both simultaneously be entertained and also start thinking about where stories come from and how they can make their own heroes. And we've got Ash Bond, who writes this wonderful series of Peregrine Quinn about a new take on the Greek myths. So Peregrine Quinn is the heroine who is sort of fighting the battles for Olympus, but in a very new high-tech way with a group of friends. So that's around 7+, and Ash is terrific. So she again will do a kind of activity-based event where the children there'll be lots of interaction, and you can ask questions of the authors and get involved. And then finally, for the slightly older age group, around 9+, Nizrana Farouk, who writes wonderful stories based on her childhood in Sri Lanka. So the classic one she has, The Boy Who Saved a Bear, The Girl Who Stole an Elephant, are two of her books, and they are absolutely beautiful but adventurous, exciting stories. So she's going to be coming to talk about
Sort
those.
of Life of Pi type thing.
For children.
Yes.
And you get to, but the joy of that is if you bring your kids along, they get to see where books come from and understand that there's someone there writing them, and then get really inspired. It kind of ignites a spark when you get kids meeting authors, and they can then get their books signed and take it home to treasure and read with you. So that's one of the things we try really hard to do is to engage all generations with reading, writing with books and authors. So that's sort of some of the stuff. I've got so much more to tell you because we've got a lot going on.
And I'll definitely put it on my socials. We'll talk a little bit about social media and where to find you in a bit. But it's such an exciting program, and every year you deliver twofold.
I think so. I mean, I really hope so. So the other ideas we're talking about, we've got Jeff Andrews' new book Radicals, about the history of the political left in Britain, which we know we've got a real interest in parts of Milton Keynes here who love that. We had a big audience for Polly Toynbee, so anyone who enjoyed that is going to really enjoy this one. We're looking at history as well. So we've been running in collaboration with the Open University a series on the topic of borders, which is such an interesting topic to address. So we've already had Tim Marshall talking about geographical borders, and Kit DeWaal talking about working class writing and trying to break into publishing. We called it Breaking the Class Ceiling, and how working class writers are, what's happening in that era. And those are online events. We've just had one last night about Against Borders. The writer Gracie May Bradley, what would happen if we tried to take away the borders that are limiting us? And the next week we got Abda Khan talking about the borders in our minds, so the prejudices and biases and how we can overcome those sort of borders. And those are all available for free online through mklitfest.org. But we're finishing that with John Elledge, who has this kind of really witty and surprising look at the history of the world in 47 borders. That's going to be in Waterstones on the Friday night during the festival, and he will be bringing, it starts way back in ancient history of the first borders that were first drawn on the first sort of maps that was, and takes us right up to the modern era.
And I'm going to be asking Flora about her favourite books of 2025. She won't be drawn on one particular, which as someone who's such a bookworm, I think that must be difficult, and she's edited a lot anyway. But my personal favourite actually was The Names, but we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So Flora, tell me some of the few favourites for you.
So some of the books I've really enjoyed: The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller, which is set in the big storm in the 70s about two couples in kind of quite isolated cottages and what happens as the snow comes down. And it's just, I felt really wonderful because it always surprises me that historical fiction is based 35 years ago from now. So basically 1991. Any time before that is now historical fiction. So this book is technically historical fiction. It's just beautifully drawn in how it works. In non-fiction, I really enjoyed Moral Ambition by Rutger Bremner, which is all about how we should all be better. And it's quite inspiring to sort of think about how you could make a bit more of a difference in the world. He wrote Humankind a number of years ago about how we are not as awful as we think we are, which is a really good thing to hold on to in troubled times like these. So I thought that was absolutely terrific. I really enjoyed some of the sort of really fun fiction reads. I've been reading some of the sort of Rebecca Yarros and the books that have been bubbling up around, just to kind of keep an eye on what's happening there. And in children's books, we've got the new Philip Pullmans have been coming out, and I haven't actually read the latest one yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Lyra's story finishes. What have you been enjoying this year?
I loved Florence Knapp's The Names.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved, like you, I read a huge amount. And it's very difficult to kind of remember, but I think why I love this book so much is because it was such a different idea that however you name your child is how they may turn out, and can a name determine their future. And I just love the concept, and I love the way she wrote. I also love Coco Mellor's I think the Blue Sisters. I loved Kate Kemp's The Grapevine, her debut novel, which Kate was my guest last week. Again, I love a debut novel as well, and again, as I said to Kate, it was one of the most accomplished debut novels I'd ever read. It felt like she'd been writing forever, but not in a kind of like, oh, I'm so bored kind of, just trotting out the books kind of way. So I love the sort of the Aussie setup as well. But again, what a privilege. I mean, I work with Waterstones on a weekly basis, and I'm so lucky, and like you, love reading. And I mean, do you ever persevere with a book if you just, because I'm not very patient, if I don't get it in within the first couple of chapters, I'm out.
There's so many books to read there that if for some reason something's not working for you, then I tend not to. I will give it a good go, and then I'll stop. But it's interesting I read quite a lot of books that are coming up, so I was trying to think of books from last year that are actually from last year and not coming up this year that I've already read, which there's some really exciting titles coming up, and then there's some really good translated fiction around as well now.
You say that though, because I tried to read Butter.
I didn't get on. No. Now I listened to the audiobook of Butter, and we had a bit of a conversation about audio offline.
Yeah.
I really enjoy an audiobook, and the audio was terrific, and I found that great. I'm actually reading her next book at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know what, because I thought, I visited Japan. I thought I'm interested in Japanese culture, and I love the idea of, a journalist visiting someone a woman in prison who, who basically lured her lovers to, with her amazing cooking. But I think I got confused because all the names began with R.
Well, I think it helped listening to it.
Okay, okay, maybe I should persevere, because everyone's talking about this book, and I thought I feel like I ought to like it, but
I thought it's quite long, it's quite dense, but it's very vivid, and the descriptions are
the descriptions. The descriptions are amazing. There was one bit that sort of really kind of rankle with me. It described someone as being heavy, and it talked about this woman as the prisoner as being heavy and overweight, and she was over 70 kgs. And I thought, and I know in Japanese culture that's probably really big, but I'm thinking I probably weigh about 75 kgs. What am I ginormous in Japanese culture? But I felt that they laboured that fact quite a lot, and that felt quite uncomfortable that someone's weight.
It is really interesting how different cultures perhaps will approach things, different topics in different ways within things. I do think I've read some interesting Arabic fiction in translation, because I do edit some of that, and I think it is good to try and keep up with what's happening elsewhere in the world. I read an awful lot of Nordic crime a few years ago, and that was so much.
That was the thing. Out. Yes,
I really enjoyed Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, who also wrote Babel. She does these really fascinating sort of alternate history fiction books that have always got a little bit of the supernatural in them, and I really enjoy her writing, so that was a good one.
So maybe I think the secret is, because my best friend also mentioned audio, maybe I need to give audio, particularly if it's quite a weighty tome like Butter, maybe I need to give the audio a go.
I really enjoyed Hilary Mantel, Wolf Hall. This is going back a long way, but
I couldn't get into Wolf Hall.
Well, I listened to the audio book of that. Took me several months because it's lengthy. Absolutely loved it, and it was just so beautifully read. So the thing with audio is the narrator is so important, that you have a narrator that you really get on with, and you kind of understand, and that they phrase it right. I'm actually listening to Harriet Tice at the moment, which I'm thoroughly enjoying.
Okay. You're the second person this week that's just convinced me that audio is the way forward.
I'll send you a list of good ones.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So coming up, we're going to talk about how we're going to find you on the socials, and just the most important thing is that we connect with MK Lit Fest. So Flora, tell us a little bit about how we can find out about MK Lit Fest on socials, and a little bit more. Absolutely, 3 great ways. So you can follow us at MK Lit Fest on pretty much all the channels. We're on Insta, X, Blue Sky, Threads. We're on LinkedIn as well for some of our sessions, because the ones like we've got an event on talking about climate change with Natalie Bennett, the Green Peer, and Solitaire Townsend, who's an activist who's also written a wonderful novel called Godstorm. So she's looking at how to communicate through climate fiction. Cli-fi? Oh, yeah, gosh. So a whole new thing. Okay. But Godstorm is terrific. It's basically set in an alternative universe where the Roman Empire didn't end. Instead, they discovered oil. And it's told through the point of view of a gladiatrix who's searching for a lost child. It's absolutely terrific. But Solitaire will be at the festival talking about that. Anyway, we're also, our website is mklitfest.org, so everything is available through that, and you can find all the events that we've been talking about, and links to the ticketing site, so you can buy tickets and come and join us at the Lit Fest. Also, I'd really recommend, if you're interested in what we're talking about, do sign up to our newsletter, and that way you'll get all the information first, and there's a link to the newsletter through our website, mklitfest.org, as well. And then you'll hear the first news of our new competitions, of our new events, of what's coming up when the Indie Book Fair gets announced, and all the other things that we do with writers across the year. And for people who aren't local, how can they feel connected?
Well, we do a lot of our events online, and in fact we'll be live streaming about 9 of the events from the festival. So if you wanted to see Johnny Ball, or if you would like to see our wonderful poets Isabel Barfi and John McCulloch, who are going to be doing a two-hander reading their poetry and explaining how they write, that will be available through our website, so you can book a live stream ticket and watch it in the comfort of your own home. As my colleague Dave says, Milton Keynes, if you can't come to Milton Keynes will come to you, and that's a promise, not a threat. So you can also find on the website, through the links there, lots of podcasts and video from previous events. So I've already mentioned the Open University series on borders. We've got a previous one on literature and offence, which is fascinating, and a previous one on different styles of literature. They're all available to listen to as a podcast through Spotify. Many of our events are up there as videoed events as well. So if you want to look at our back catalogue, you can go and find all sorts of absolutely fascinating things that we have recorded to make available to people to watch for free whenever they want to kind of connect in with readers and books.
That's such a good idea, because as you say, not everybody can make it, and I know I've got a client that on the 25th, and I really want to be there, but I will make sure that I'm there in the evening. But there's so much to choose, and as we've said, like we did last year and this year and the years to come, there is something for absolutely everybody. And even if you're not, I sort of say, even if you're not a book lover, I think it's really important to engage with literary festivals, because this is for our children. It's got to start at the ground. It's got to go. It's got to start the ground and spread the word, because it's not for everybody, but I think there'll be something for everybody.
I think so, and it's a festival of ideas as much as it is about books and writing, because we're talking about the topics that matter today. And they have a book connected, and if you want to buy the book, fantastic. We'll all be delighted about that, because we want to keep everything going and support the authors. But I think you'll find just the conversation itself is fascinating.
Oh, thank you, Flora. As always, an erudite, articulate, amazing, fascinating guest. Thank you so much. Looking forward to MK Lit Fest very much.
Thank you very much. I hope to see everybody there 22nd to the 26th of April.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you there. If you'd like to find out more about the events, as I say, I'll put them on my socials as well, and you can head online to look at the full programme. It's been a fascinating show again. I could talk about books all day, and with you, as I say, Flora, an absolute joy. I'm wishing you an incredible week. This is a Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show, and coming up next week, we're going to have more shenanigans. I don't know what we're talking about next week. I haven't booked a guest, but I'm wishing you the most incredible week.